Hey, you know what, everyone? Let's just start early, right? Let's start early. I'm starting early purposely for a reason, because in our Discord channel, Azing said, I'll believe it when Eddie starts on time. So I thought, you know what, today, let's just start early. There was still some timer on the clock, and the timer on the clock was going to finish earlier than 1 o'clock. But I thought, you know what, let's have the timer finish early, and let's start earlier than the timer finishes. But awesome to have you all here. So many people early. That's brilliant. That really inspires me. So thank you so much. Hey Maggie, how you doing? Awesome to have you here. I think this is your first time joining the stream, but I haven't seen you in a long time, since I think it was Mozfest in London, maybe like a year ago. But I hope you're doing well, and it's great to have the usual regulars on here as well. We had first on was Tijes. Hopefully I pronounced it right. Tijes. Yep, hopefully I pronounced that okay. Let me know if I haven't. But you were on first, then Vamsi on second, and that was really good. That was like more than 5 minutes. I think 6 minutes before 1 o'clock, which is awesome to be on so early. Some more familiar faces, Abuzir, Carl. Who else have I missed? If I've missed, just say hi in the chat and remind me again. But it's awesome to have you all here. I really hope you've had a great week. It is Thursday today, whichever time zone you're in. I'm pretty sure it's Thursday today. And I hope you've had a good week. I hope you've had some challenges, and I hope you've had some successes. And as I've always said, if you keep them small, just like with open source, if we keep them small, then you'll get more challenges and more successes. I should have Andrew joining me today, but he got tied up in another call, so he might be joining a little bit late. I see the likes going up, by the way. Thank you so much for giving me a thumbs up on the video. It really helps support the channel. I'm waiting for Andrew to appear, and then we'll include him and we can talk about some project life cycles, some really good questions that we had earlier in the week that I'm keen to dig in deeper, and you'll see Andrew and me agree on a few things, and you'll also see us disagree on a few things too. Ben, awesome to have you here. Salhill, good to see you again. Severio, how are you? How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I'll look forward to catching up with you afterwards as well. Hope you and Amanda are both doing good. D-Rush says it's TE with an AA at the end, and yeah, I can't do that phonetically. That's really hard. How wrong was I? Like on a 1 to 10, was I like slightly wrong or massively wrong? These streams are really energizing. You know, Carl, let's bring that up on the stream, and that was awesome. Love to have that positive feedback, because you know I really want to, I guess, inspire people to do open source, to get into tech, and having these amazing messages inspires me to do it more. So it's kind of this like positive cycle. So I love that. That's great. Hope you've all got some really good things planned for the weekend, and I hope it involves open source. Yes, you guessed it. Actually, also, I bought some new kit yesterday, and it's arriving next week. And so my microphone shouldn't hit me in the face anymore. And yes, it will obviously sound a lot better. Hopefully the audio is okay for you, and hopefully it's not too loud or too quiet. Let me know, because I did move some things around yesterday, so let's see how the settings are. Severio, I'm really glad you're good. That's awesome. Vamsi's thinking of moving to GCP now. Awesome. So Severio runs GDG Cloud London, and their group is, I think, 5,000, maybe even 7,000 members strong. Over 7,000 actually now. And their community is so inclusive. And yes, it is initially, I think originally was focused around GCP, but now they've really branched out. They do Angular, they do React. Their community is so amazing that people really want to attend, and people want to share their knowledge on there. So it's a great community to join wherever you are in the world. Now that they're doing virtual events, I highly recommend checking out Severio's meetup group, gdgcloud.com, and it should redirect you to the correct place. But make sure it's GDG Cloud, because there are some other ones in London and in the UK. D-Rush is 5 out of 10. Oh wow, 50% bad. Okay, that's not so good. Azing is here. Azing, you're not first because we started early. Because you said in the Discord I would start late, or you didn't say I'd start late, but you implied it. So I thought I'd start super early today just to catch you out. Well, thank you so much for all your support in the Discord that you're giving to the community. I think that's just really awesome. We need to give that a shout out, definitely. Awesome to have you here. Severio says, Vamsi, great choice. At the end of the month, you can redeem free training for GCP. Awesome, Severio. Thanks for letting everyone know about that. What do they need to do to get that? We have 12 likes before it even started. Awesome. This is going to be kind of, the most likes I think I've had on the stream so far. So thank you all so much. This is great. On a lunchtime stream anyway. What would you do if income was already taken care of? Wow, what a question, Carl. Carl, what a question. Is Andrew ready yet? I'm looking on my other screen. I can show you what I'm looking at, but I'm kind of trying to check if Andrew's face has appeared. Kind of, where is he meant to appear? One of these faces, and he hasn't appeared yet. So I don't know what he's doing. Let me scroll down. Yeah, no Andrew's face yet, unfortunately. So you're just stuck with me for the moment. But what an awesome question. What would I do if money was taken care of? I would just do more open source, right? I'd do more community work. I would do what a lot of awesome people do already, but I would try and do even more. So I'll just build on what I would do. I'm really hoping that now, as I said, I'm finishing for my client. Was meant to be kind of earlier this week, when it was meant to be yesterday. Now it's today. So from tomorrow, let's just play it safe, right? From next week, I'm going to do more community work, more open source, more live streams, and more tutorial videos. I'm really thinking, so I have mentioned this. Jose says more open source. Love that. So I'm going to bring that up in reply to that question. Love that, Jose. Azing says, "Don't get me back. Don't get me back. I don't play these games. I'm so bad at them." So yeah, I want to do some more tutorials. So let me know what tutorials you would like to see. I do have RxJS in mind. I do have Angular in mind. I do have Ionic framework in mind. And I'm really interested to know what other, and Git actually, and GitHub probably. So like 5 courses. I'm thinking to do them maybe 2 or 3, maybe 5 or 6, depending on how much detail I go in kind of part courses. And then I want to do a live stream at the end. My thinking is if I do a live stream at the end, then people who have taken the course then can ask questions. And my goal is for them not to follow the course like directly, but to build something with what they've learned. So for example, if I build a to-do app in the course, I don't want people to build a to-do app. I want them to build an app that helps whatever their idea is, but use what I've taught them to do that. So let's see. I'm looking up on my screen again, and there's still no Andrew. Okay, let's forget about Andrew. Andrew, if you're watching, Slack me when you're around, and I'll know to add you in. Hopefully that works out the box. What did I miss? Let's see. Let me put up Severio's one as well to let everyone know that there is free training on GCP that you can receive. I've heard that Google Cloud can be hard. To do cost control. I'm not sure. I find with all cloud platforms it's really hard to do cost control because that's a really good point I think you make. But I find it hard in all of them because it's like your gateway cost X, your proxy cost X, your load balancer cost X, your web server cost X, whatever it is, be it App Engine and so forth. Your serverless cost X. But the X's are all tiny, right? It's like 2 cents here, 10 cents here, and all the rest. But it adds up, and you might get a bill at the end of the month for $5 or pounds or whatever it is. And you think, oh, it's not so bad. But slowly it kind of does grow. I have got my AWS. I've actually reduced the usage on that. I'm moving it over to GCP and Firebase. And the price of that is still going up. So I'm thinking, I don't know why that's still going up. Maybe the storage is increasing for some cron jobs that I have running. But I should really turn those all off. So I think, yeah, it's really hard to maintain all of those. It's small, but it grows quite fast on the cloud platform. So do turn off stuff that you're not using. Azing, I'm going to bring this up. Please don't get me back. We'll call it even. Okay, we'll call it even. Google's going to launch a new debit card. Oh, really? That's quite interesting. I suppose Apple have done stuff, so that could be quite interesting, especially now with people doing more online purchasing. Tibor, awesome to have you here. Yeah, great to have you here. Hope everything is going well with you. Now it's become next week. Vamsi, I'm sorry. It's not my fault. It isn't my fault. I am trying to finish off my client work so I can do more community and open source work. I really, really am. I'm hoping it'll be tomorrow, but tomorrow I might actually work on the quiz platform with Andrew on our Code Mortals channel. But if I don't work with it on Andrew, I will be doing coding tomorrow and I will be live streaming it on one of those channels. So, but in terms of the tutorials, next week, be patient, please. I know you're voting for the Ionic one first, so maybe I'll look at that one first. I might do a Discord bot one, like kind of tutorial, because learned quite a bit over the last couple of weeks playing with our Discord bot, EddieBot. So, I mentioned Discord, and Nightbot comes in and shares a link. So people watching, if you want to continue the conversation after the live stream, don't forget to join Discord, and we can continue the conversation. We have various channels for like Git, GitHub, open source, Python. We can create some more as you need as well. So just let me know. It's something I think of daily. Okay, interesting. Well, maybe you're in that position, Carl, to if you can have that flexibility. I mean, that's the dream, right? To have enough money coming in, at least to cover the bare minimum costs, so you can live and then you can work on your projects and build a startup and then grow that further, right? Because it's harder to build a startup or a project or a PaaS platform or SaaS platform, whatever it is, when you're working a lot on your job. So yeah, that's the dream. We'll hopefully get there. I'm working on it as well. When you start, I'd recommend that you start. Let me bring this up. D-Raj has got a question here. I think only Jose prepends his questions with a Q, which really helps me to kind of find it in chat. So thank you, Jose. Everyone else, copy Jose. When you start, I'd recommend that you start on how a project begins, hello world, staging process. Okay. D-Raj, we will do that. Andrew wanted to draw some diagrams. That's probably why he's a bit late. I said we could just use some diagrams that people have drawn online. But you're right. We'll come up with a brief agenda. We'll come up between all of us. Hopefully he joins today. He cannot join tomorrow because I have Janine joining tomorrow on the live stream. So, but yeah, we can go through those. I think that's a really good discussion to have. Git and GitHub tutorials would actually be great. Ben, I will do that. Let me know. I actually might create a tutorials channel on Discord, and people can put down some ideas there, because in the chat here, if I don't write it down, I'll forget. So you can write it in the Discord channel. Maybe I'll create that, and I can then write that down. So that'd be awesome. Everyone watching, by the way, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. I hope you're enjoying it. And if you're not enjoying it, double click that thumbs down and then click the thumbs up. Kind of something like that. Jennifer's not here. She usually says that a lot better than I do. Vamsi, starting Angular and going forward to Ionic would be perfect, I guess. Cool. Sounds good with me. That's easier for me, I suppose. I have more experience in Angular, and then Ionic I have less. But I can share what I know and build some apps. I have used it at some hackathons, and it seems quite straightforward and does really, really well. Tibor, I'm preparing for an associate cloud exam. Maybe want to contact you later, study together. It's really awesome how the community is getting together and studying together. I've seen some great conversations, people starting open source projects from our lunchtime live streams, having a discussion, and it's really great to see that, and people continue it on Discord. D-Raj, I saw Nightbot blocked your smash that like button. I don't know why it did. So but thank you so much for writing that in the chat. Andrew says, I'm on your call. Oh, I see Andrew. Andrew, you put your green screen up. I said no green screens today. I don't know. When I want a green screen, he doesn't put it up. And then when I don't want one, he puts it up. And he's probably not even wearing any headphones. My one criteria for Andrew to join today was wear headphones. And he's not. I don't think he's wearing headphones, but he's got a green screen. We'll bring him in a second. Let me catch up with this chat. Actually, you know what? I can bring him in. He can talk for a bit and I can catch up with the chat. But I see we've got some new people. So everyone, welcome the new people as you usually do. That's awesome. I'm going to put some headphones in because it looks like Andrew is joining. After he finishes messing around with his green screen. But if it's a bit of a mess in your room, Andrew, feel free to put your green screen up. I just won't be greening it out, so it will be you on a green background. So let's do this. Okay. So let's try and bring Andrew in. Who wants to hear from Andrew? Maybe if you don't, we can leave him out. We'll just leave him waiting and we're just watching the stream. Or should we bring him in? What do you reckon? I don't know. Andrew's grinning, so let's see. See if I can bring him in. Hopefully this works. Let's see. So Andrew, let's bring him in, and this social stuff is over his face. So hopefully we have Andrew. Hopefully you can all still hear me, and maybe you can hear Andrew. I can't hear Andrew. Andrew's messing around still. I don't know. He sends me a message saying he's ready and he's not ready. Messing up my live stream, maybe making me look like an amateur. I'm going to carry on with the chat. Ben says bring him in. D-Rush says bring him in. I say take him out. He's in now, but I can't hear him. Andrew, say
Why
something.
can't
Don't be
you hear
shy.
me? You should be able to.
No, I can't. I can't hear him. Can anyone hear him, or is it just me?
Okay, I've put the
Oh, I can hear
headset
you.
on
Just really
here,
quiet.
but
Aha. Maybe
oh
it's my
really?
volume. Shh! Don't tell Andrew.
Maybe I can
I
need to
messed
adjust
it up.
this.
Freaking Windows.
Okay, I've got the headphones on now as well, so
Okay.
I'm not sure how the
Can everyone
battery's
hear
doing
Andrew
this,
okay? Is it just me who can't hear him very well? One second, let me bring my volume up.
Okay,
Andrew,
cool.
keep talking.
Right. Evening, afternoon.
I still can't
Here's
hear
my
Andrew
mess.
very well.
Welcome.
I did tell Andrew to come on 10 minutes before the stream started, and he didn't. He was too busy partying probably and so on. Love, just the numbers have gone down now, Andrew, because of you. I don't know, you didn't even do your hair. Can everyone
On
hear Andrew?
YouTube,
Let me know.
I had a
Let
listen
me
on
see.
YouTube.
Oh, we
It
can hear
sounds
him.
fine.
Only I can't hear Andrew, which is so weird.
Yeah, on
Okay, maybe it's
YouTube
my
it sounds
headphones.
fine to me. So I'll talk without Eddie. You don't need to hear it, Eddie. He can go fiddle around. He can break stuff. It's great.
Okay, Andrew, you carry on
How's
talking.
everyone doing
I'm just gonna
anyway?
sort out my headphones.
What were we here to talk about? Someone tell me what you want to talk about. What can I tell everyone around? I did miss the first 10 minutes because I was on another call.
Switch
Actually
headphones.
talking to my brother. But yeah, what do you want to talk about? Let me bring the chat over here so I can actually see what's happening. Eddie's running around his room trying to figure out what's going on.
Try now, Andrew.
I don't think
I can hear you now.
Headphones
Okay.
won't help you.
I
There
don't
you
know,
go.
that was
Okay.
embarrassing. But thanks to everyone saying you can hear him. That builds up some confidence. So thank you, Maggie, Azing, Diraj, Jose, Ben, everyone who said they can. Andrew, tell us about.
I'm going to show everyone this. Look, you see, you've got a room full of tech. I've got a room full of butterflies. I don't know if everyone can see that. This is my kids' project whilst we're all locked away at home. So if you're wondering what's on the table, it's a bag of butterflies that came out this morning, and the kids got all excited. So they might come running in a minute and say hello to the butterfly. What's my job title? I don't have a job title. I'm a consultant. No such thing as job titles for contractors, right?
Yeah, I think Andrew
but I
and me
guess-
do have this is where we probably agree, I'm guessing. Andrew and me do get quite passionate about job titles in that people shouldn't be pigeonholed into their job titles. We worked at one place, Andrew and me, where some of the junior testers, I don't like the word junior, but I'm going to use that just to kind of be brief, had some extra capacity to get involved in development. So we wanted to get them involved in development, but the manager, the middle management, kind of useless person, was saying, "Oh, they can't do that because they're
a junior. Yeah.
they're not developers, they're testers. They should only be testing. Well, they haven't got anything to test. Let's upskill them." So Andrew came up with the great idea of let's just not have titles. Everyone contributes to the project. Forget titles, and that was really good. So everyone was a team member.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that if someone wants to do something, why stop them? If they're passionate about it, then let them do it. All right, they might not have the skills, but let them do it. I mean, as far as job titles go, I mean, I've been called everything from CTO down to junior developer by people, so it doesn't really bother me. You can call me what you like, but I've worked in IT for about the same amount of time as Eddie. I guess I started my professional career. My first professional job was 2002, but that was part time. I guess I wasn't full time. I finished my degree in 2004, three. So yeah, but I've been writing code and helping people with their IT ever since, and I've done just about every job there is within the IT team. So if you want to know what my job title is, I am a do anything person, but I don't really like titles. I don't believe in them.
But mostly, we focus on full stack development. Andrew's got a similar skill set to me, although we focus in different areas, which is why we work well together, and we work on a lot of client projects together, from high street banks to government departments to high street retails. So yeah, we do a lot of things, and Diraj has said let's talk about the whole project life cycle, starting from a brand new project like Hello World, getting it production ready, and what we would do in those sorts of steps. We mentioned Steel Thread the other day, and I think it'd be good to go through that. I know we have a lot of questions that I have missed because I had some technical issues with Andrew, so apologies for that. And maybe we'll address those first quickly. It is 1:15. We're doing okay on time, so I just want to kind of quickly address. Jose Talksaid is Ionic asked a question. He put a Q at the front, so I need to address this question because he's being consistent with the Q, which is awesome. Ionic used to build desktop apps with JS. No, so Ionic is used, although it does work with Electron. I have seen some updates, but the way I've used it is to build mobile apps. Andrew, what do you think? Can Ionic be used with Electron to do desktop apps? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, Electron's a wrapper, right? So it wraps around things. You could, again, like you, I've not actually tried to use Electron wrapped around an Ionic project, but it works with Angular and React and so forth. So I can't see why it would not work within Electron if you wanted to do that. Again, it's kind of Ionic's awesome because it can work in so many different situations, but it's a master of none, right? It's not the best in class at any one job, but it can do a lot of jobs. So if you need something that can cover lots of areas, fantastic. But if you need a very specific job for something, then maybe Ionic's not the thing to choose in the first place. But it's still great for, I think I said the other day, sort of 80 odd percent of projects. It will do what you want and be the only tool you need. But yeah, that other 20%, and that's, I guess, back to that kind of life cycle. When you're talking about project life cycle and building up a project, where do you start? The first thing you start with is a few conversations because you need to understand those things. What is the strategic goal of the business you're with? So if you're starting a new project and it's a project for yourself, ask yourself in 2 years from now, what do I want this to be doing? And have those conversations first. It doesn't have to be long because I'm not saying talk for days and weeks and get all the knowledge because that's not the way Agile works. But you need a target end goal. Where do you want to go? If you want to be cross-platform, then look at the cross-platform things. You want my T-shirt, the Google open source one? Yeah. Where did I pick this up from? I think I got this in FOSDEM.
I picked it up for you in FOSDEM. I got it for you, and then you picked me up something else. I can't remember which T-shirt you got me, but yeah, we go when we go around FOSDEM conference in Brussels, we pick each other up different T-shirts. Oh no, it was your brother. Yeah. Your brother got it for us. No, it was David who got those T-shirts for us because he said, "You're missing out on these T-shirts." Yeah, I can't take the credit for that. But we will look more into Ionic, Jose. I've just dropped my headphones so I can't hear Andrew. But yeah, we will look more into Ionic and see what it can do, and I will do some live streams on that.
Yeah. I know we're talking about what we're going to do across our channels, so we need to sit and have a chat. Between us, we kind of have 3 channels. Mine, which I haven't done much with for the last year. We have our Code Mortals channel, which was going to be more around coding, but we might shift the focus on that to be a little bit more business oriented. And then you've got your channel here, which I think you're keen to get more into the tutorial stuff, which is where my channel was starting. So we're going to have a chat and see how we can try and build an ecosystem between our channels a little bit more focused on certain areas, aren't we?
Absolutely. And yeah, we're going to have kind of a figure to have some overlap, but not too much overlap. So we're going to figure that out. And thanks, Jose, for the great question. And yeah, I will create that channel on Discord. GraphQL, Carl asks. Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't think Andrew and me have that much experience with GraphQL. I haven't seen a need for it. We do everything REST.
Yeah. I mean, GraphQL, I read lots of subjects around it, not yet found an appropriate project for it. Whilst I can say it seems quite niche, it's very popular in the React world, isn't it, GraphQL?
Yeah, so it is. I think it solves a problem if you need to drive more about what data you want to select in the front end. But if you're doing things RESTful, then I don't think there's a need for it. So yeah, it really depends. I think again, it's a bit like SQL and NoSQL. I think we had a question around that somewhere else a second ago. They both got their pros and cons. So don't get into the hype, don't get into the buzz. Definitely pick the right tool for the job.
Yes, yeah. I think when you're building small apps, then NoSQL works quite well. But with larger, more complicated apps where you might have 4 or 5 different bits of software that need to talk into it, and you need that flexibility for how the data is stored, relational databases are still much more powerful at supporting a plethora of different interfaces or front ends that users might interact with. But if you've got a single focus, it's a single stack and it's going to be isolated, then NoSQL is quite powerful in that space. So again, look at the software solution you're going to build and pick the appropriate tools for that solution. I'm very much against what a lot of people do in companies where they go, there's this new bit of tech, let's use it. Because generally you don't need it. I'm there to try and help a company. Well, this is my sort of contracting world coming out, I guess. I'm there to try and help people focus on what is the value that can be brought to their business. And the value is not in the bits of technology that you've got. The value is in the solution that you're building and how users are going to make the most performant interactions with your software. So yeah, GraphQL, all these fun bits of technology. Yes, I dabble with them. I play with them at home, but in production use, it's very rare I would recommend some of those things. So the NoSQL conversation is very much in the same ethos of what are you currently using in your organization. If you currently have a NoSQL experience, then let's talk NoSQL. If you've never done stuff with NoSQL in your business, though, chances are me introducing that is going to give you a problem down the line to maintain it and get expensive for you to look after it. So look at that as well. Don't just choose NoSQL necessarily because it's the right tool, but what's a good fit for that company? Because strategically, they've got to support these things for years to come. As a consultant coming in and out, I don't want to be nipping into lots of different companies where they have 30 different bits of technology that can do the same job. Sorry, I've probably gone a little bit further than you wanted on that subject, but it's a passionate area for me to making sure businesses don't screw themselves over in the long run.
We have some other questions as well. So I can answer kind of the quicker ones first. So Agrover, I don't know if I pronounced that right. I was going to say, I've on my channel, I've got a video on Mermaid, which allows you to draw diagrams in a kind of Markdown-esque like style, and then you can create PNGs or SVGs from that, and you can actually even put it into your documentation in your PDF or website documentation using ASCII Doctor. So I do have a video on that. Any questions, let me know. Some people asking what we're going to talk about today. We are going to talk about the project lifecycle. I did start the conversation earlier in the week, but I was keen to go through it in a bit more organized approach. I know people are asking about React Angular. I don't think we're going to get into that sort of discussion today. Obviously, one is better than the other. No, I'm joking. Obviously, the decision is down to you, and it depends on the project. And one's a library and one's a framework. So if you want a library, you want just the view, you want to do something simple, then go for React. If you want to build more of a production-ready project with multiple people, and onboarding new people becomes easy, you need the whole framework, then it makes sense. And it's so it's a conversation we can have another time. I can bring a React person on. I know quite a few React people, and we can kind of have the Angular React discussion. Maybe Andrew and me can fight the Angular corner, and we can get some React people two other React people to fight the React corner. So we can look at doing that. If that sounds good, let me know. Right. So some of the other questions. I have missed some of the questions, so I do apologize. You're going to have to write it in the chat again for me to catch up. But a project lifecycle, right? So I'm really keen to start right at the beginning. So if, for example, all of you watching now are Andrew's and mine's client, and you said, hey, we want this project. It needs to... I'm trying to think of an example. You need to be able to buy a product on the platform, right? Search for a product, buy a product. Just a very simple e-commerce platform. Andrew and me, how well would we start?
Most people wouldn't even say that. Most people wouldn't even say that to you. Most people would say, I want an e-commerce platform and I want you to use Magento. And that's what most clients would say. They'd already have picked something before you come in. And that's what I guess I was starting the conversation a little bit a minute ago about is a client tends to have an opinion based on what they've seen other people using, right? They see other people and they say it's been a success with Magento. They say it's been a success with Shopify. They've been a success with something else. And there's lots of different off-the-shelf solutions. And yes, an off-the-shelf solution will probably be the right fit for 80% of those places. But going into a new client where you don't know what their business model is, the first thing I tend to do is try to say, can we just sit down and firstly, I need to see what you already have, what technologies you already are using. And secondly, I want to understand what your goals are long run, because is it better for you to build something small, focused and bespoke? Or is it better for you to, because you have more of an unknown, you don't know where you're going, to take something off the shelf for now, and then later on, once you've figured out what parts of that off-the-shelf solution you're using, then we might look at something more bespoke. Because most people want everything at once, right? They want it bespoke, but they want it to do everything. And the two things have a big conflict with one another. So let's assume then that the decision gets made that after a few conversations, they do need something bespoke, and we're going to build it ourselves from scratch. I guess where do we now go? What's the next thing? So I've mentioned a little bit on technology. I know Eddie's busy typing away to people, so I won't drag him into what he thinks on this just yet until he's ready. But yeah, I think the first thing is looking at that technology. What is the current stack they've got? What skills do they have in-house? And will there be an overlap there for what we want to build? Can we continue to use what they've already been using? Or do we need to now investigate new technology? Where do you think? So that's my sort of view on the first engagement before we write any code.
And I think a lot of people also, when they start building up the team, they think, oh right, we need, I don't know, 3 developers, a tester, a documenter, a business analyst, or whatever it is. They usually start at the top more and go, right, we need project manager, right? And the project manager decides certain things which they probably shouldn't decide. And really, you don't need a project manager, you probably need a scrum master. But that's, again, a separate conversation for another time. But once you've got the team, I think a lot of the time the technology that's decided is whoever they bring into the team. If they're passionate about Mongo and React, that's what they'll use. And I think that's probably where experience comes in, because when you've used various technologies, yes, you'll have a preference. Of course, it's normal to have a preference, but also you'll be more pragmatic and go, right, what's the best tool for the job, even if it isn't my favorite? And I think that's really important. So, for example, with our current client, Andrew and me are finishing off with, we're using Mongo, and I'm not a massive Mongo fan, but it is the right tool for what they need. It does make sense. So we are using that. Is that a fair example, Andrew?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and then you've got to also consider the hosting of it, right? So you might have those technologies. You've got to actually validate, are these technologies going to work where I want to host it? Or does that hosting provider have a similar alternative that works within their ecosystem? Again, loads of people out there, they say, oh, I don't want to be tied to one platform. I want to be able to move it between all the different ones. But the reality is, how often, once you've started down a path, do you move it from AWS to GCP to Azure? Chances are you're not going to. And if you are, there's going to be other things you have to do anyway to support that. So challenge the whole kind of the flexibility around cloud platforms, if you're going that way, to say, yeah, we could build something flexible, but we're going to have additional maintenance. If we want to use Mongo, then we're going to have to run a compute engine like EC2 or GCP Compute to host the Mongo instance. And then we've got to manage the cluster of instances. So if you want the resilience, we've got to manage all that ourselves. Whereas off the shelf, we could go to GCP and we could use Firestore or Datastore, or on AWS, there's RDS instances, RDS Aurora. They have stuff for Progress that's all managed out the box by them. So the managed services for those clouds are a big reason why you choose them. So look at those as well. So the technology conversation happens first. Yes, again, you're not fixing into it. Things change. You might start by thinking, yeah, we're going to use React and we're going to use these libraries. But actually, down the line, you realize that library is now deprecated, or it's going to be deprecated soon, so it's not the thing to use. The technology will change as you evolve the project, but you need a good picture where you're going to start, so you can start building, as Eddie's going to say next, the steel threads and doing the proof of concept work, because that's where you need to now move to. Once you've got the team in place, you've got the technology in place, you know what the client wants long term, what their strategic goals are. So now we can start building some code, and we start with those steel threads, and we start with those proof of concepts on. And again, Eddie and I, we'll always say, and I'm sure Eddie is probably waiting for me to say it, we start with the difficult jobs first. So the things that we know are going to be hard, we don't want to put them off, because they're going to be the ones that trip us up. So try to identify where the problem points are going to be. So if you're building an e-commerce platform, payment is probably going to be a problem. So how are we going to address payment? Let's do some spikes around payment. Are there third-party services like Stripe that we should be using? Are there open banking solutions we should be using? And if we're going down the open banking solution, we need to have FCA approvals to do that. Or we use a third party to do open banking. So you want to bring those difficult conversations forward and try a couple out.
Before we move on to the kind of the building side and the steel pipe, I want to address some of the questions. And Carl's just made a comment, which is quite funny. He said, when I read brown bag, I thought it'd be Eddie eating on the stream. I did try that, but when I recorded it, it turned into like an ASMR kind of channel, because all you could hear was me munching. So I figured that probably doesn't work so well. So you will have lunch, and I will just kind of carry on chatting. And Duard brought up a really good point. Go on, Andrew, sorry.
Just very quickly, when I saw brown bag, well, actually, I know what brown bag is, but it's more of a joke, I suppose. When I saw brown bag, I thought it was more because Eddie's run out of work to do. He's now been fired. He's got no money. He's out on the street drinking out of a paper bag.
Everyone watching, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, by the way. That really helps the channel. Duard brought up a good point about Neo4j. It's a graph DB, and there are a few of those out there. Some of them are open source. And he says they make connected paths between law cases to solve legal disputes. A relational database would not work well. And that's a really good point. I think some of these tools you use in combination, because you need a tool to do a specific thing. So I, for example, use MySQL with Elasticsearch. People say, well, why do you use both? Well, MySQL is a relational database, or Postgres. It's good at what it does, but then sometimes you want analytics or you want to perform searches, and Elastic makes more sense. So mirroring the data over, kind of almost like a cache, and putting it in the structure that makes sense to how you want to query it or how you want to get stats from it is really important. And so I think it's important, again, just to reiterate, use the right tool for the job. Like Andrew said, take the high-risk items first. If you're not sure how to do something, if you're dependent on a third party and you might be waiting on them, do those first. I know we always want kind of to pick up the easier things first, so we can say, oh, I've successfully done this week. But if you know you can do those things, then you can do those later. And the bigger the task, the higher risk the task, so the more the story points has, see if you can break it down into smaller sections so you can still get achievable things on a daily basis, even if overall it's a high-risk task. Absolutely. So, Dawad, thanks for that example. That definitely makes sense. Andrew, I don't know if you're reading the chat. I don't know if you're picking out any that look interesting. Harsh says...
I'm glancing at it as you talk, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Go on, carry on.
Says, isn't it? In my opinion, it isn't super necessary, but it makes things easier, I guess. What was that on? Sorry, Harsh. I've probably missed something further up that you wrote. If you can let me know what that's on. I did see some other interesting ones as well, but I've probably lost my... A Grover. I'm just going to say A. I think you said it was 2 words, was it? A Grover. Can we do reverse indexing in MySQL? It can be done in Elastic. I don't think it can be done in MySQL. No, in Elasticsearch you can write reverse indexing. What's it called? They've given it a name. Percolating, I think, is what it's called in Elasticsearch, which is quite an interesting concept. Yeah. Harsh is saying about front end frameworks. Do we need them? You can do stuff on the server side, like with Django or with Symfony and PHP, or in where it's rendered on the server side rendering. But I think you just couple everything together. I think having the front end libraries of frameworks just allows that separation. You can write tests that are specific to that part of the stack. You can run things in parallel. So I think it's important to have separations, and that's why I think full stack JavaScript does really well. And Andrew will probably agree with me here. Because if you're context switching between, say, PHP or Java or Ruby backend, and then using a front-end framework that's HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you're context switching a lot. Because the front-end framework does still have MVC or MVVM or whatever the framework design pattern is. Or if it's React, it's just V for view, right? So it's... if you're doing full-stack JavaScript or full-stack TypeScript, you get the same language, so you're not context switching so much, which I think is important. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, and I think if you're building a modern platform and you're looking to refresh the technologies in your organization, then you should definitely look to separate the concerns at the different areas, because writing front-end code and writing back-end code definitely requires a different mindset. Yes, we talk about full-stack engineers because we've got experience. Well, I say we. I have some experience working on front-ends and back-ends. But we always focus on one end more than the other. So for the last year, I've probably spent 80% of my time doing front-end work and only about 20% of the time doing back-end work. Whereas prior to that, I was probably the other way around. That separation helps you focus more as well, because the concerns are different. When I'm writing front-end code, I'm thinking cross-browser support. I'm thinking client-side performance. When I'm thinking server-side, I'm thinking scalability, statefulness. How am I going to manage the business rules of the data and look after the integrity of the data? Front end doesn't tend to care about data integrity, because data integrity is not a concern of the front end. So when you start bringing the two together again, and don't get me wrong, I've worked for many years writing a single ecosystem, sort of a monolith project where the front end and the back end is all together. But it starts to merge in your mindset, and it becomes very hard to track down defects when it's all in one place. But yeah, there's plenty of frameworks that will work fully and quite nicely on just server side, and you don't need views and React. In fact, if you're working in UK government, any project on UK government has to work server side only for people that don't have JavaScript. at which point you start to question what the value of things like Angular, React, and Vue really bring. And hence projects like Angular Universal. I think React has a server-side. I forget the name of it. I don't think it's React Universal. I think it's something else. But most of these frameworks have a server-side rendering option available as well, so that you can still keep that separation.
And I'm just Azing, keeping us on track, saying the next step, which is good. But before we go on to the next step, I just want to add a couple more things. Harsh says, what about if you pick the hardest parts, then you don't get as much progress, and how do you show progress to the boss? So if you've got, say, I don't know, create a login form is one of your tasks. That's easy, doesn't rely on anybody else. You can kind of get on and do it. That might have, I don't know, for example, you might give it 3 points. And whatever you give it and I give it makes no difference. There's no one's better than the other. But just say the size, the risk, everything of that is 3 points. Probably even less, probably like 2 is what I'd give it, personally. But you had, I don't know, integrating to a third party's OAuth system, you might give it 13 points, for example. So it is multiple times harder than creating the login form. And yes, the 13 points might take you not 4 times as long, but might take you 5 times, 6 times as long, or 2 times as long, right? The points don't dictate time. It is in terms of risk and complexity and unknowns, everything all together into one. Don't let anyone tell you any different. And if they do, send them in my direction and I'll sort them out. But anyway, let me get back to my point. So if you have like a 3-pointer and a 13-pointer, you're right, your 13-pointer might not get done until the following week or complete. That's why you need to break up the 13-pointer. If you ever get something that's got big points, break it down. You could break it down into a 5-pointer, a 3-pointer, and a 2-pointer, for example. Make it small. Getting Hello World working with the third-party OAuth server, for example. And then you haven't even authenticated yet, but you've made a communication. That could be one part. So I don't want to go into too much detail, but I think it's important to show that you can break the bigger tasks up. And by you picking that to do first, any issues, any blockers that you could then let your Scrum Master know or the third party know, and then you could go work on those easier tasks in between. You really want to pick those harder tasks first, split them up, and then while you're blocked on those or waiting for someone else, then you want to pick the easier tasks because you can just do those. They're just your bread and butter, as we say. That's a really good question. Thank you very much. Right, Azing's getting us back on track. What is next? So we've chosen the tech, right? So we've chosen. Andrew's done a runner already. I don't know. Comes in late, leaves early. I don't know. So yeah, so we're talking
some
about.
Some of us have got children to look after. So
the little helpers, right?
Say, before you jump in.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say you mentioned about points a lot, but you didn't mention how do we go about pointing. What is the purpose of pointing? So. Every project, that, yeah. We have to estimate stuff, right? So people want to estimate things. And in Agile, we talk about story points. So what we like to know in Agile is what we're doing for the next 3 sprints. So we have the current sprint we're working on, which we're committed to delivering. It is generally a commitment. We're expecting to deliver pretty much everything that we put into that sprint. There's a vote taken between the team that says, yes, we're all confident, or it's normally done by hands, right? We say with one hand, how confident are you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for that sprint. And it's only the current sprint we want to see confidence of a sort of a 4 or a 5. Otherwise, we shouldn't be starting that sprint if everyone's giving 4s or 5s out. Then the actual story estimation itself comes into play. So for the next 3 sprints, we want to have everything estimated to know. So a sprint being 2 weeks of work, everything that's going to happen for the next 3 sprints. So the next 6 weeks, we want to have an estimation for. And we do that through story points. So Fibonacci numbers are used. So we'll say 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21 points. And they go in Fibonacci because the bigger the number, the more the unknowns tend to be, the bigger the risks are. And they also highlight those big numbers to people to say, we should consider breaking this down. So to do that estimate, it normally requires the team getting together. You look through the requirements that you're working on. Only high level, we're not looking at the nitty-gritty detail. During the estimation, there may be some conversation about some of that, but we're only looking at the high level stuff. Oh, he's coming back again. I'll let Eddie continue from there.
Andrew's little helper needs Andrew's input to know what Andrew wants for lunch, to obviously making him lunch, doing his washing and so forth. So some really, really good questions and some really good points. So apologies for making the assumption that everyone knows what points are. And they are not hours, they are not days. They are points that the team can deliver, and you don't know that until you've gone through maybe 2-3 months of work. And that comes into Harsh's next question, which is how long is a sprint? And sprints on different projects can be different lengths: 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week. I think 1 to 2 weeks is ideal. And a sprint is where you kind of put certain features in to do it, and you endeavor to do it. You don't promise to do it, you endeavor to do these. And the way you estimated you could get them done is on points. So if you have, I don't know, say 10 features, and let's pick an easier number. Say you have 5 features and they've all got 3 points each. So they're roughly all the same complexity. Then you have 15 points in total. And if the team can do 15 points in a sprint in a week, then that's you endeavor to do that. And some sprints will go better and some sprints will go worse, and you might adjust the cadence of what the team can achieve in a sprint. And I think that's really important. But it's great Jennifer's joined from the west coast of the States. Nice and early morning. Don't worry about missing your alarm. Awesome to have you here. We have Luke here as well. Thanks for joining. Luke is a founder of a startup, so he might be interested in also hearing some of these discussions. Same with Amadine. Change she's not here today. I think some really, really good discussions we have. Jennifer says Fibonacci always. Yes, always Fibonacci. And is always not related to hours. Fibonacci gives you that spread, otherwise numbers get too close. And if you're in the middle, if, say, your team vote, so say if Andrew and me are looking at a feature and I give it 3 points and Andrew gives it 5 points, so the average would be 4 points, but there's no 4 points in Fibonacci, you round up to 5. Always err on the side of caution. Absolutely. And don't sandbag. If you think your project manager is going to, it's usually a project manager, not a scrum master, is going to try and squeeze some more points into your sprint, then people call it sandbagging. They say, right, we give this a 5 as a team collectively, but the project manager is going to try and squeeze some extra features in, so let's make it an 8 so we have a bit of a buffer. But then all that happens is next sprint, the project manager tries to squeeze in more, and then you just sandbag even further, and it just ruins the whole metric. So I'm really firm.
I was going to say, there's a point to be made there as well, that you've got to track velocity of the team in things. Now, that is where time starts to come into play with points, unfortunately. But you do need to know approximately how many points can your team achieve sprint on sprint. Generally, that will take you about 5 sprints to understand how that team works and how efficient they are. So the first 5 sprints, there's not really any metrics apart from, are we keeping the bosses happy? Which is where the question started from, is how do you tell your boss that it's worth me spending time on these things? Now, that's a conversation at the risk level, really, to say, look, we've pointed this stuff. This is how big they are. These are the big ticket items. And as such, they're the ones that have the most risk. Would you like us to address the risk, or would you like to see something because you need to show someone? And that becomes a business decision, just going back to the original question, that not always will you do the high risk first, because sometimes the budget is tied to showing that progress is being made and that it's looking the way that someone has been sold it, because money is obviously king when it comes to delivery stuff. So whilst we always try to bring forward the risky stuff and the harder stuff first, because they're the ones that carry the most points and they're the things that will bite us at some point, to keep the project funded and the budget flowing, sometimes we have to accept that we'll do the easier stuff first to just get through it.
And I think I just want to go back to my point. Like some really good questions here now, which we're going to get to. But I want to get back to. I just want to go back one further, which is if the project manager is trying to shove in more things, or if you estimate your team can do 20 points in a sprint, and they say, "Oh, can you do 25?" You can say to them, and this is probably from my experience, but I'm really kind of frank and say you can put 100 points in the sprint. Doesn't mean they're going to get done. I mean, you can squeeze as much as you want. It's an estimate, a team estimate, or what we hope or endeavor to do, not what we promise. And so if a project manager is trying to squeeze more in there, just, give them a more rope to hang themselves. Just say, right, put in an extra 50 points if you want. Put in 100. You know what? Put in the entire year's worth of project into this week. It doesn't mean it's going to get done, and you want to deliver honest metrics and transparency, so that therefore your metrics get better. Like Andrew said, after kind of 2 months or 3 months, you will get better at estimating. And I think we also got some really good questions in the chat. So
again, before you go to the chat,
sure.
To finish that statement. Whilst yes, you can throw everything you wanted, that's where again you've got to come back to the team before you start the sprint and get a vote of confidence from the team in the sprint. As I said, that's done by a hand. simple hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how confident are we? And you record these things. So during your sprint ceremonies, you record some of the things like how many points are going to the sprint, what was the confidence of the team? And then if someone later comes down to you and says, why aren't you delivering the stuff that the project manager is telling me you're working on? You say, well, this is what was recorded. The team had zero confidence we could deliver that. We were being ignored. Talk to your project manager about how he's managing your team, or get someone else involved. We hate to point blame at people, but if records are showing that you've got a bad project manager that's trying to push things through that aren't possible, then make sure you're recording that and that the whole team is present to back you up when those things happen. And that's the worst thing that I've seen, is that you have a private conversation with the manager and say, I don't believe this is possible. And they say, I'm going to do it anyway. Who are you to tell me otherwise? It gets to the end of it and they start pointing the blame at you because you didn't deliver it. You say, well, I told you it wasn't going to happen. He said, oh, yeah, but no one else knows that, so screw you. So just make sure that there's visibility across the team that these conversations have happened, because if they're going to push you to do it because that's their role to do that, then fine, you can't stop them. But if there's evidence that when it comes to the crunch time, when the stakeholders above him come along, that you can present back. Now, again, some companies are really difficult with that because they won't talk to the people on the ground floor, in which case you want to be out of that place as soon as possible anyway.
I think you raised another good point about project managers. It's their job to kind of crack that whip, right? They're not a team player. They're there to beat the team and, whip them, go faster. Whereas when Andrew and me build teams, we don't get a project manager. We put in a scrum master, which is the complete opposite. So rather than trying to stand behind the team, and I don't know if you've seen that cartoon meme, the project manager's behind the team standing on a big block, and the team are in front, and they're cracking that whip. Whereas a scrum master is there's no one standing on the block. They're at the front of the team and got a rope as well and pulling along with the rest of the team. So Scrum Master is meant to remove blockers, ask you each day, well, how can I help you work faster? What can I do to help you? And that's why teams that have a Scrum Master, who is a Scrum Master, who wasn't in a previous life or previous job, a project manager, because I've done that mistake before, and I'll put my hand up and own up to that. I have interviewed and hired a Scrum Master who previously was a project manager, and a lot of project managers have gone into being a Scrum Master because it's more money. Then they just turn back when times get tough, which is when you need a Scrum Master most. They go back to their old project manager ways, right? Zebra never changes their stripes. No, leopard never changes their spots. That's close. So you've also got to watch out because there's this role, delivery management now, right? It seems to have appeared in the last 2 years, I think. Predominantly, I know the name of Untitled has been there for a while longer, but people that were project managers that have tried to be a Scrum Master and can't do it now call themselves delivery managers and they're trying to say, I can be a project manager or a Scrum Master whenever you want. The truth is, no matter where you come from, unless you can actually say, I am a Scrum Master, and you can hold to that ethos of what a Scrum Master means, you will always end up being a project manager. And you've got to be able to fight for the team, and your focus is on the team to be able to call yourself a Scrum Master. If you're not willing to put up a fight for the team and tell the stakeholders, no, what you're pushing for is not achievable, I'm not going to try and crack the whip on this, then unfortunately you're not a Scrum Master. Because you have to have you're there to protect the team. I feel so bad now. Jennifer just says, should I have Scrum Master on my resume, not a project manager? I should ask that question first. Any Scrum Masters, any project managers in the live stream? But Jennifer, from my experience with you on Discord and the live streams, you are definitely not the type of project manager we are talking about. You get involved, you get on, you're learning and doing so much. I would definitely say you are a Scrum Master. And I think you would be awesome on a team. So I do want to clarify that. And I think that's why titles aren't so great. As we said right at the beginning, you probably missed that, Jennifer, that titles aren't so great because we don't want to pigeonhole people. I think attitude is so important. And I know you're always learning, you're pushing your skills, and you're always grateful for when people help you. And that's just the good attitude of a good team player. So I think that's important. It's why Andrew and me, a lot of the time, do have everyone in the team as team members rather than their title. What was it, Andrew?
I just saw Jennifer's comment a moment later. I was Scrum Lord. I think that's quite a title to have. The person who runs all the Scrum Masters is the Scrum Lord. I might have to steal that and use that because certain people, I think you could say you should be running all the Scrum teams here. And just to Carl's point as well, perfectly correct. The ideal setup for a team is a mix of skills. So whilst people ask me how many developers can we put on this, I always try to talk to them about a team. I mean, within a team, having any more than 3 people that are writing code is going to be ineffective. The other people on that team should be doing those other roles, doing the design stuff, doing the Scrum Master work, doing the I don't want to say business analysis, but the acceptance criteria for you. And again, they're doing acceptance criteria. They're not writing tests. I might upset a few people here, but I don't believe that the traditional role of a tester has a place in a Scrum team. Yes, there should be people that are quality focused, but the role of a tester should be someone that is actually implementing the code to give evidence that the acceptance criteria has been met. Team should be cross-cutting, and I would accept there being testers on teams. Don't be wrong. If people have the title of tester or all, that's fine, so long as they don't think that they're going to be writing manual tests and manually testing stuff. Exploratory testing has a place, but exploratory testing is probably an output from the team to the next group that might be doing a review to bring things together. But again, I'd rather a team can do the entire delivery and deployment with the skills they've got without relying on other teams to do that.
I've also missed so many questions in the chat. I'm so sorry, everyone. And oh my God, we've got 8 minutes left. Andrew, we need to go a bit over today. I don't know. We've got so many questions and so many topics to cover. We haven't even got into building any code yet. Let me address some of these questions, and I apologize if I miss any. Just keep writing it in the chat. So I did say I want to kind of elaborate a bit more on why I said Jira kills projects. It's because usually a company has bought Jira because their marketing is great, right? Jira looks great. You get all these great graphs. You can micromanage your team. You can look at exactly what people are doing at any one time and who's slacking and all the rest. And they market it to the people paying for the project, which, is their right to do. And I think they do that really well. But the reason why I say it kills project is because it's so customizable that the person, like the project manager, usually over customizes it, creates loads of extra work for developers to do. Whereas if you use something like GitHub projects or GitHub issues and milestones, it's all there and you're logged into the system that you're using. You can tie your code commits to the issues. You can do so much. So yeah, if you want your developers to work efficiently, I strongly believe that you need to not throw more tools at them. They just need to use the right tool for the job. A bit like what we're saying about with React and Angular and different frameworks and all the rest and libraries. So Jira, I think on some projects it does make sense, but majority of the time it doesn't. If you're running an agile team, you don't need something like overkill like Jira to do it. It actually slows the team down. So that's why. And I think then the project manager kind of has more time on their hands and tries to just dissect every little bit rather than helping the team work and push forward. So I think, I think Jira I've had a lot of experience with Jira over the years, and now actually when I pick up clients, I usually, if they're using Jira or they insist on using Jira, then I put them to the bottom of my list of projects that I want to take on, because they're more likely to have a project manager, they're more likely to have micromanagers in general, and it's just a bit old-fashioned, a bit out of date. So hopefully that explains that a bit more, and I can go into more detail in the future, but I'm keen to get through some of these questions.
I should probably clarify, Jira is not necessarily a problem. It's the thing that people mean when they say Jira. And the thing they mean is they want to micromanage stuff and they want to have lots of reports that they don't understand, but they just love to have reports and stuff. Jira can still work as a tool, but it needs to be driven from the development and delivery aspect, not the reporting and management aspect.
We have so many good chat. Keep the conversation going in the chat, and we're going to try and get through to everything and continue. We mustn't lose our focus. Azing usually keeps us on track as well. So let's see. So what is a micromanager? I think what constitutes as a micromanager? I think that's a really good question by Harsh. So I would bring it up on the screen, but it'll go over Andrew's face. So I don't want to be too rude to Andrew. So the way it micromanager, I mean, I'll keep this short and brief, and Andrew, feel free to chime in as well, but we'll keep it short so we can move on. It's someone who kind of just sits on your desk and says, hey, you started that piece of work like an hour ago. How's it going? It's the same as it was an hour ago. I'll get it done. It'll finish when it finishes. And 30 minutes later, I was just passing. I just wanted to kind of ask how that ticket's going. And, then they start off friendly, and then they get a bit harsh. It's like, come on, it's been a day. you said it was 3 points. I think 3 points takes a day, so why isn't it done? And every 3 points is not the same in terms of time, so they don't realise that. Again, it's just lack of experience and more cracking.
But the other thing they don't realise in that, and the reason why I hate the concept of micromanagers, every time they're asking you this question for an update, they've probably just added another hour to how long it's going to take to do anyway, because you've just been distracted from what you were at, and you've probably lost a train of thought you were on. Okay, a 10-second question maybe, but never when these micromanagement types come along is it 10 seconds. It always ends up being 5, 10, 15 minutes. And that kind of time frame, you do lose the train of thought you're on. A 10-second, like on Slack, if I'm looking at Slack, I can answer something in 10 seconds, and I know still what I was doing. But when you've got people over your shoulder in that kind of ethos, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people that have had professional careers have experienced the concept of, for every developer, there's 2 project managers. And that's micromanagement taken to the extreme, where you
and it happens.
See, how do we resolve this problem? Let's put another project manager on it. Right. Okay. That's going to solve the problem, is it?
It does happen. And Jennifer brought up a good point that Agile is meant to reduce micromanagement and increase transparency. So you don't need to have that. And she also mentioned a good point is when project managers or micromanagers in general try and come in, try and tell you how to do your job as well. It's interesting when we had, I can't remember what his job title was, Andrew. Andrew's laughing already. He was talking, well, we need to do this and we need to do this. And we're like, okay. And we were estimated like 3 points for it. And he goes, 3 points? That's just like one line of CSS. So Andrew and me are like, what the fuck? How are you going to write to the database in one line of CSS? So again, yes, Jennifer brings up a good point. When they tell you how to do your job, you just tell that person, get back in their box and do what they're good at, and we'll do what we're good at. So I believe in collaboration and getting, bridging the gaps. But when people are idiots and trying to make you look smaller, then you just make sure you put them back in their place.
It's funny because that conversation was 3 years ago now, I think. But still, we bring it up because it had that much entertainment value when he said it.
Yeah,
it was crazy. But yeah, that's definitely what you don't need is people telling you how to do your job. I saw a question a minute ago. It's gone flying by.
While you're looking for that, I'm gonna bring in another one. Carl says, got screwed over, tight deadlines, sandbagging, people got laid off, it was ugly. It happens all the time, which is why from the beginning I push back and say, I don't try and think, oh, maybe I can get this in, because whatever we estimate, it's usually longer. So I usually try and say, I always push back and not sandbag, but just say, look, this is what we've estimated as a team. It's an estimate, and let's just estimate little and often, like every week or every 2 weeks, however long your sprint is. Don't try and kind of brush things under the carpet and later on they explode. Did you find it, Andrew?
Well, I was just saying that there was a question, I think it was just a comment replying to someone saying, the point of Agile is to reduce friction, not constantly check in, and don't interrupt people. Teams being remote, I think that's definitely the way that things should be. If you want to be productive, then separate your team from the distraction, let them work remotely. That is where you're definitely the most effective, is when you're not around other people. Yes, you need to talk to people. You can't be completely 100% disconnected. That's where tools like Slack and, I don't want to say Zoom, but Hangouts and Google Meet are great ways of keeping the team in communicate with each other. But you don't need to be face-to-face 90% of the time.
Absolutely. And it's so another question is, so there's no disconnect. So this is from Carl. Question: thought on delivery teams? It's like self-contained groups, someone from each department. Yeah, absolutely. It's like why agile teams do so well. You want a mix of skills in there. That's why hackathons, when you've got a team with mixed skills, you do so much better, more likely to win. You want the designers in there. You want the back end, the front end. You want a range of skills, and there's so much value in that definitely.
So what else comes next? So we've spoken a bit about estimation. I know it's 2:00. Do you want to go into what happens now?
Let's do it.
Engaged on it.
What does everyone think? Shall we continue? I think we should continue. Andrew and me are keen to kind of share. Hopefully you can stick around for a little bit longer, but we'll try and rush through it a bit faster. What's the next step, Andrew? Let's do it, and I'll read through some of these questions and get some of the questions to bring in.
Yeah, so we're on a new project. We've started a new project. It's a greenfield platform. We've agreed that we're doing it as a bespoke solution. We've got our requirements for the next few sprints agreed, and we're going to start picking up the difficult tasks. Now, the sort of difficult tasks that you tend to find I mentioned it a minute ago. Things like if you've got a functionality that requires a payment, that could be something that's complicated. You might not have worked on it on the team. But what about building that pipeline? I think I was on a stream. Was it yesterday? You did a stream. You mentioned pipeline-driven development. Whilst not really a term used within the industry, it's something we try to explain to people because everyone talks about test-driven development, domain-driven development, and so forth. We feel that when you're starting a project, you should consider your pipeline and focus on pipeline-driven development at the start of your project. And by pipeline, we're talking about how am I going to take that line of code that's been written and get that in front of people to get feedback from it. So we look at how are we going to test it. We need to put some quality checks in there so that if that line of code has a bug in it, when it gets reported back to us, we can fix it in the tests and it won't happen again. So first thing is probably get your testing set up and how are you going to test something. Only needs to be the happy path to start with. Don't worry about the sad parts, the edge cases just yet. Get your happy path working, then you can add the others later. Next, that deployment. How are you going to get it out to people? Again, a lot of traditional companies, they expect you to have a development environment, a staging environment, a production environment, and probably others like UAT environments and so forth. Where I try to start from is, yes, we'll have two environments. We can call it development if you want, staging, UAT, whatever it is, but an internal environment that we can do internal checks on, and then an external environment, so our production environment that users are going to use. Let's just have two, internal and external, and let's deploy to both of them at the same time. Let's have the confidence in what we're building from day one that we can deploy both internally and externally at the same time. Internally, that's for us to play around with stuff, try things out, do our exploratory testing, do the stuff that you wouldn't want people mucking around on production doing, and even to reset databases and things if we want to. But because we're going to be always moving forward, let's take that stance from day one. We're always moving forward. We're not rolling things back. Let's build two environments, internal and external, and have a pipeline that deploys to those every time a code change occurs and it passes our automated tests. So that for me is the first step that we're going to do on our project, and we're going to build out and get those things in place. Again, people don't tend to see the value in that. So how do you explain the value of those things? I'm sure Eddie would like to say a little bit on this. I can talk for a while. So I'll pass to Eddie to say, how do you build in value? How do you tell people the value of setting up a pipeline at the beginning of your project? Because it's probably going to be the majority of your first sprint doing that stuff, right?
Yeah, I think the value is you get to give it to your client, the client themselves or the users, whoever you're delivering it for. It might just be the product owner at the moment, but you get to deliver it to them. Imagine going to the first kind of week of your job or your contract or whatever it is and saying, I will deploy this week so you can have a look at what we've got. It might just be hello world, but the value of that is it's going through that pipeline and they can get used to, you're kind of bridging that gap and it's getting them used to the way it works. So if you say, I've deployed it to develop, and they go, okay, great, they get to see it even if it's hello world. But when you say, right, are you happy with that? Do you want me to deploy it to production? Again, they get to see that workflow rather than later on, like in a month's time or 2 months' time or 3 months' time, you say, I've deployed it to develop. And they go, oh, okay, it doesn't look good. I want to make these changes, all the rest. Loads of features have gone out. It's higher risk. But also, then they say, well, why can't my users see it? Well, it has to go to production next. Well, if you do this like kind of every week, well, ideally every day, if you can go to development and they can see it, but then when they're happy to collect up a few features, it goes to production. If you can do that every sprint, or twice a sprint, that's really important. So it's really useful. They get to know the flow. Therefore, if anything does go wrong, it's only included 1 or 2 features, so you know exactly what happened at that point, rather than you've got 30, 50, 100 features in there. It's like, shit, what broke it? Okay, and there was some people had to go, so no worries. I hope you enjoyed what we talked about so far, but we are going to continue having a great conversation here. Diraj, I hope explaining between project manager and scrum master made sense. I think Jennifer explained it probably better than me, but it's being part of the team. So I think Andrew has to go. He's being called. I told you today's our last day with the client, so I think Andrew has to go. So at least this way we won't get distracted now. I can focus more if Andrew's going, right? Because he's the distraction, not me.
Yeah, no, unfortunately I need to go and have a conversation by the looks of things. I did say 2:00 I would be free, so I forgot about that.
No worries, good luck.
It's been great chatting with you all. Hopefully I can join perhaps next week sometime as well, and we can carry on from here or touch on some other subjects. But hopefully it's been useful and interesting to hear my opinions on a few things as well as Eddie's.
Yep, I'm still going to stay here, so don't worry. We'll get rid of Andrew. Andrew, thank you so much for joining, even if it was late and you are leaving kind of early, but that's fine. Good luck with your call, and I'll speak to you afterwards, Andrew. I'll continue. I'll hold the fort.
Depending on how long you're still going, maybe I can return a bit later if you're still going. Depends how long you're on for.
Okay, ping me on Slack. Cool. Bye.
Cheers all.
Okay, so now we've got rid of Andrew. I can answer some of these questions, and I'll continue with the. We're almost there. You wouldn't be surprised how there isn't much to it, which is why I think a lot of people leave it till the end and massively forget about what needs to be done in a real project. So Azing says, perfectly said, Eddie. Thank you very much. Oh, I can bring stuff up on the screen now because now Andrew's gone. I won't cover his face when I bring things up. So awesome. Right, let me catch up. I know I've missed some things. I know D-Raj keeps reminding me of some things that I've missed, and I'm really sorry. It was app versioning. You did reminding me about that one. Let me know anything else that I have missed as well, and I will catch up on the chat. Azing says, I knew that. Oh yeah, with the coffee, got you. So yeah, I think I trust everyone in my team. And I think just to kind of maybe put the project manager Scrum Master to bed, because I don't want to dwell on that too much. There are other valuable things we can talk about. But for me, everyone in my team, we have this thing in Agile from a long time ago. And I don't know if you're familiar with it. Maybe it's a British part of the Agile, but they've kind of don't use it anymore, but it's pigs and chickens. And I do like this example because I think it explains it really, really well. I've lost my headphones, but I don't need it because Andrew's gone. So I think it explains it really well because everyone in the team is a pig. And bear with me, it sounds kind of like bad, but it's actually a compliment. And in British English breakfast, you have bacon and eggs, right? The pig is committed. When the pig is going to be part of that breakfast, they're committed, right? They're like, they're gone. Whereas the chicken is involved. It kind of lays an egg, can go do the next breakfast, can go, find a girlfriend, can go get a job, can do whatever. So with my team, if someone in the team, as in a pig, one of the core members, wants to at least help working late or whatever, I will be there to help them. But when someone outside the team, kind of is cracking that whip, I'm less likely to help them because they're more like a dove, right? I think we also use like a dove or a seagull, that's the one. They swoop in, shit on things and then fly off. And you don't want to help those people because they just drop a bomb and leave. But hopefully that kind of explains it a bit better. Francesco says, hi Eddie, great topics for today. It would be great if you could put name, social handles on your guests below. Yeah, good point. Let me bring up Andrew. That's a really good point. I will bring up his Twitter. I should have planned that better. You are right. Actually, let me get his LinkedIn. I can't find his Twitter for some reason, but it is, I think, just Andrew Cunliffe on everything. Let me see. I'll bring up. That's a really good point. I like that. I'd usually do that, so I kind of upset myself for not doing it. I will bring that up now and keep the questions coming up in the chat because I am going to address your questions. Andrew Cunliffe. Here he is on LinkedIn, and then you can find him from on Twitter and stuff from that as well. So some of the questions, what have I missed? Let me bring up the next question. Why do you need project managers then? I agree, Harsh, absolutely. But usually the company or the client paying for the project wants a project manager to calculate statistics on how, the velocity of the team and all these. The Scrum Master can do that, but they're focusing on the benefit to the team. So imagine the Scrum Master effectively works for the team and the project manager works for the client and thinks they're the boss of the team. It's very, very different. That's why, when someone thinks they're my boss, it's like, I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to, accommodate when you need help and so forth, or if you've messed something up. Whereas a Scrum Master, being part of the team, if they need some help with something, then I'm going to help them because they're part of our team, right? We want to deliver as a team. Hopefully I haven't missed any questions out. If I have, let me know. If there's a problem in production, a project manager says, who's going to fix this? How? A Scrum Master says, how can I help to fix this? Yeah, Jennifer, you put that out really, really well. And a lot of the time I found the project manager wants to point the finger, go, whose fault is this? Whereas the Scrum Master says, as a team, who's got time to fix this and who can help me fix this? The Scrum Master usually feels more responsible, even though it's not their fault, they feel responsible. And so everyone in the team jumps to the Scrum Master's kind of aid and says, no, it's not your fault, we can help you do it. And usually it's the opposite. So just to recap, when the Scrum Master says, I see Andrew's still laughing. I haven't got my headphones on. Is Andrew wants to join back, do you? Or is he on his call? I'm not sure. I've got my headphones on, so if Andrew wants to join, he can let me know. But so it's when a Scrum Master feels responsible, we want to help them. Whereas when a project manager, they want to point blame, so no one wants to get involved. So I think that's a good explanation, hopefully. I told you about the dev team in college. How do I help them? How can I work efficiently so that people don't get all the stress? I think no one should get the stress, in that you should spread it. As an expression, a problem divide. I don't know exactly what it is, but like a problem divided. Someone can help me out here. If you split it, it becomes less stressful. And I think that's really important. So definitely see where their stresses are, see where their bottlenecks are, see what their blockers are, and see how you can help. But yeah, Harsh says spread the work, Dheeraj. Yeah, absolutely. That explained it better than I did. So did I miss any other comments out? You don't need a PM if you have SL. What's SL, Jennifer? I don't know that one. Service... Well, I don't know. Scrum shouldn't have PMs. Yeah, they shouldn't, right? I don't think they should either. I think that's important that they shouldn't. And I find that teams work better, as a team. Jennifer, I get it now. Then I'm probably a Scrum Master. Yeah, this is why titles aren't very good, because they mean different things to different people. So I think titles aren't that great. Oh, Jennifer, your message got blocked by. Nightbot, I don't know what happened. I'll click through and see what they are. But yeah, people have different leadership styles. They do, and I think that's important. Harsh says, Eddie, please comment above. What did I miss, Harsh? Sorry, remind me. Did I miss something out? I'm so slow on this chat. I'm really sorry. It's harder than I thought. Question I might have missed. This is Azing, but what is the pipeline Andrew was talking about? So pipeline is starting from you're changing code or documentation and going all the way to the user, to production. That's our pipeline. And we do pipeline-driven development, which isn't a known term. We've coined it ourselves, so it's not so popular. But the idea is, instead of starting, so you have test-driven development, you write tests first, but we say you should start off with your pipeline first. So if you're doing a React project or an Angular project or whatever it is, or an API project only, again, using Express, whatever it is, get Hello World working in literally kind of a few hours. Hello World, get that Hello World automated tested with automated test. Really simple. Forget about all the boundary conditions and get that deploying out through pull requests to development environment to production. And then start adding more code, more tests, adding more to your CI. So your pipeline starts off as thin steel thread from beginning to end, and then you start beefing it up. It all doesn't have to beef up together, but it can do. As you add more tests, you probably add more code, so the beginning bit beefs up. And then as you add more, your CI will then beef up as you add more tooling to that and all the rest. So I think that's really, really important to do that. So hopefully that explains that. Pig, pretty intelligent guy or girl. That's from Duard. Yeah, Pig is one of the team members. People don't use it so much anymore, but I still use it. I still like it. Pigs are smart and pigs are awesome. Yeah, pigs do the work in the team. They really, really do. Yeah, I don't eat pork, but it's delicious, especially bacon. Bacon is so good. I've gone vegetarian this year, and it's I do miss bacon, absolutely. Cow, center of the world. Oh, yeah, that's quite interesting. So let me see what I've missed in the chat. So I haven't been able to go and make my coffee as I have FOMO at the moment. Sorry, Azing, but it's a really nice thing to hear. I want to bring that up. Where can I see that in the chat? I've probably lost it. Let me see. Chat's been so busy. But okay, I can't bring that up. But Azing, thanks for that. That means a lot. I really appreciate it. Carl says, I would like to see a live stream. Eddie tries to doing stuff in React. Oh my God, I would struggle. Actually, Carl, that's an amazing idea. I think I saw someone else write that was a really good idea as well. Was that like Jose or someone wrote? I saw that ping up in the chat. Yeah. Angular developer. Well, I do React for some of my clients, but yeah, you're right. Eddie does React. That could be quite interesting, right? In the Discord chat channel that I'll make for ideas, let me know. Put that in there. That would be quite funny. It was Jose. Cool idea, says to Carl. See what differences are and stuff. I will bring some React people onto the live stream, and we can see what they think and how you would do things in Angular, how you do things in React. We will do something. Like that. Jennifer, I don't know why Nightbot is blocking you. You should have the role that kind of should let you kind of do most things. Really, I will check it afterwards. Yeah, you do have the regular role, so it should be a lot easier on you. Maybe I haven't put it on the caps. On caps, let me see. Regular, yeah, you should have that. So I don't know why that's doing that. So sorry, Jennifer. Don't take it personally. Love to have you here, though. So, Nightbot, bad Nightbot. It was caps, right. Why is Nightbot being so irritating? I need to customize Nightbot a little bit more. Nightbot, again, such a diva. It's Bottitude, yes. I think that was... Who came up with Bottitude? Jose, well remembered. I think that was Jennifer that came up with that one. Turned off too many cookies, he's hangry. So, right, getting back to the pipeline. So, where were we? And the apps. D-Raj, what were we talking about apps again? Remind me. We were talking about apps. So, there was an apps question that you reminded me and I forgot. So, remind me what that was about. Oh, versioning, right? Was it versioning? Like, when you do alpha, beta. Aha, I do remember. Harsh, you can't post links. You should be able to. You have the role as well. Let me just check on Discord. It should be syncing up the roles. You haven't got the regular role because Nightbot didn't allow you to have it yet, but I've just upgraded you, so you should have that role. So you should be able to put a link in there now. I hope, fingers crossed. Don't know how long it takes to sync up. So I'll come back to that in a second. Harsh, thank you so much for sharing Andrew's Twitter, Lazy Chaos Dev. Thank you very much. I couldn't find it. And I couldn't remember because he changed it recently. It used to be his name and he's changed it. So thank you very much. Finger pointing never helps. You're absolutely right, Jennifer. It doesn't. It never helps. So so alpha, beta, alpha, beta, and production. So usually the versioning, when you have zero, when you're below version V1, so when you're like, I don't know, 0.9 point whatever, 100, that's still beta. And you don't really hit production until you go to version 1 point whatever. And alpha, I personally think is when you're kind of 0.1 something, but everyone is different. So beta is the more important one. Alpha, I think, is just a bit kind of bit of a grey area. But beta, people expect there's going to be problems, going to be issues. And so, yeah, I think a lot of projects stay in beta for quite a long time, even though they've got a lot of people using them. But when you pass version 1, usually people expect it to be much more stable. You don't release as often, and so on, which has good and bad points, I guess. So hopefully that answer the Harsh alpha, beta, canary. Canary, I don't know canary. Let me know what you mean by canary. Hopefully you can post links now, Harsh. Jennifer, I think you can post links as well. If not, I need to work on this Nightbot, and we can continue the conversation in Discord later on. So, yes, so we spoke about the thin pipeline, the steel thread, hello world, whatever it is, front end, back end, both, doesn't matter. And then you add more tests as you add more code. You might add more libraries, you might add more tooling like accessibility, testing, pen testing, load testing. And as you add those to your CI, the CI kind of gets fatter if you think of it as a pipeline. And I think that's really important. And then if you can, it needs to be fast as well. As you add more tools, it gets slower. But the problem, if your build takes too long, then you don't get that feedback loop coming back to you so quickly. So it's important to get it fast. So for certain branches, like for feature branches, you probably wouldn't run pen testing and load testing, all those sorts of things, because you want that quick, fast back sort of loop. Google Chrome Canary, a Chrome Dev, etc. Edit. Yes, they give themselves names. I guess they're pretty cool, right? Google's pretty cool and hip, so that yeah, it's Canary, I guess the name they give it. I'd usually go beta production or alpha beta production, where alpha is more my prototype, where I'm more likely to throw it away, and then beta is actually production code, but we're iterating very fast and very often. And then and so for me, beta is not a prototype. Beta is still production code. You still need all that good practices in the automated testing and all that sort of stuff. Whereas alpha, I feel it's more prototype, throwaway code. Okay, yeah, Canary is definitely a Google thing on Android Studio and Chrome and all those sorts of things. Azing says, I think projects that stay in beta for a long time have simply skipped the alpha stage. Yeah, potentially. Have you done any pipeline building? Carl, good question. Have any done any pipeline building? Where is that in my... Here we go, let's bring that up. I think it's good. Have you done any pipeline building for mobile? Yes. So when I did a hackathon, again, this is not for a client, it's also for a hackathon. When I did pipeline building, it is all very the same. The deployment is a bit different because you need to package it up and deploy it to an app store. But the first like 90%, only the last 10% is different. So I highly recommend still doing the same pipeline for mobile stuff. It's still there, absolutely. Harsh, you still can't post links. Oh, sorry. Maybe it takes time for Nightbot to update or refresh that you've got that role now. Maybe on a live stream tomorrow, try it then, and we'll give that a go. Because I am conscious of time, and I know everyone's got this busy, and we'll head back to work soon. I don't want to go past too much. 2:30 is like in 8 minutes. Zebra, giraffe, hippo, Carl. I'm not sure of those ones. Tibor says canary. Deployment, when you have your pipeline, you want to test new features, you make a new deployment, you could direct some traffic there. Okay, got you. So the way I deal with that, so I'm going to bring that up. That's a really good point, Tibor. The way I do that is actually feature. So you can, Facebook, I know, do that as well. They direct a certain amount of traffic to that server once they're happy with those features, and the users haven't complained, and they'll spread it out to other areas. But I prefer to do it is with feature flags. So have like an admin portal where we can turn off features for general public, and you can have it on for maybe beta customers. So if someone's flagged as a beta customer, then that feature becomes available to them, and then you can release it to everybody else once you're happy. So I think that's, and we have like a directive in Angular where we put it on our components, and it automatically just obeys the rules that it needs to, which is really, really awesome. I have a very, 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 very stereotypical question: how to get a job at Google. We can get some Google people on here. I know quite a lot of people that work at Google. I could get some Google people on here, and you can ask them. Google's hiring process changes all the time, so I'm not sure I can answer that, but maybe we can get people on here. Jennifer, time does fly. I can't believe it's almost an hour and a half live stream. That's crazy. I need to get some lunch soon as well. A/B testing, yes, that's an important one. A/B testing is really good, and it can be done in various ways. I know Firebase has their own way of A/B testing, and you can write your own one with beta flags or feature flags and so forth. Carl is right. There are some really cool stuff people can do, but they don't do them. It's really crazy how they might just keep it on dev for a lot longer, and they'll say, well, we won't deploy it for a few months until we're really, really happy with it. But instead of getting user feedback, at least a small subset of user feedback. So I think, companies very old-fashioned, very out of date, absolutely. Can you get David East for a live stream? I don't think I know David East. Can you share a Twitter link with me, and I can reach out to them and see? I did have the person who invented DevOps, who coined the term DevOps. He was on my live stream a couple of months ago, just before COVID. I can get lots of people from Google on here. Microsoft as well. I had Dean from Microsoft, I think, last week. I've got a few more Microsoft people coming. Sam, Simona. So Microsoft are doing some interesting things around open source. I used to not really be a fan of Microsoft, but I still don't like Windows, don't get me wrong. But they are doing some really interesting things with their culture, building teams. They even started a team now. I know Azim started a team, heading up a department at Microsoft on green development, like green servers and all sorts. So it's just like really, really interesting. But Harsh on Discord, can you DM me? his Twitter link or something, or his LinkedIn. I can reach out to him. He's a Firebase guy. He does live streams regularly on his channel. I must subscribe and follow his channel as well. I love watching other people do channels. An app is never finished, so best start getting feedback fast. Absolutely, Carl. You're absolutely right. A project is never finished. It really, really never is. And I think it's important for people just to keep a rate on it over and over. Awesome. Harsh. Yeah, send me his Twitter. And hopefully you can send me his YouTube or Twitch, wherever he live streams, and I'll watch his live streams too as well. Suggesting get Brad. Sorry, D-Ride, I've read that wrong. Also a suggestion. Can you get Brad the channel? He's probably way out of my league. I think I got a long way to go. I think Brad has just passed 1 million subscribers. So really awesome guy, but I don't think I'll be able to get him on my channel. I'm really sorry. Thanks. Thank you, Harsh. I've got his Twitter now, so I can. I'll just bring it up later on, so I can do that. That's awesome. Listen, everyone. I hope you're having an awesome Thursday. I hope your week's going well. I think it's time to call it a day there. Let me put my socials along the bottom, so you can all follow me on Twitter and keep up to date with what is going on. I really want to thank all of you for being here on today's live stream, asking so many amazing questions. And we went on for an hour and a half, so I really appreciate you taking that much time out of your day. We are going to do another live stream tomorrow lunchtime. It won't be with Angie, it will be with Janine. She's an awesome developer. I can't wait for you to share her story, and we can talk about her experience in where she works and all the rest, and hackathons and meetups she goes to now virtually, but still goes to a lot. And she gets involved in so many communities, and I think that's really important to get involved in communities, not just the open source, but also running meetups and so forth. And yeah, absolutely awesome to have you all here. And I'm going to do some coding live streams coming up. So watch this space. We're going to work on EddieBot, and I'll be really keen to get all your help working on that. I remember the other night, Sunday night, I was really tired, and Jose jumped in. I was stuck on that type, and Jose jumped in and helped me. So I really appreciate that. And other people jumped in and gave me ideas and helped me with that too. So, but I'm really keen to get more people contributing to EddieBot. So if I can help you do that, let me know what your barriers are. Let me be your Scrum Master. What barriers can I help for you to just contribute to open source in general? Not necessarily contribute to EddieBot, but contribute to open source in general. I'll be really happy if people get involved more into open source. Jose's right. Don't forget to hit that like button. Thank you all so much. If you haven't subscribed already, then don't forget to subscribe. I don't know why your picture doesn't come up, Jose. I think there must be a cache somewhere. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that bell button to get notified every time we go live and post videos. And I will have some video courses coming up soon. I'll create that channel in Discord right now, and you can let me know what tutorials you would like to see and what people you would like me to bring on. Thanks, Andrew and Baby Kid. And butterflies as well. Does 5G cause corona? I think that's a good time to stop this live stream if we've got comments like that. I've seen a lot of rubbish on socials. No, 5G does not cause corona. Thank you all for today. It was awesome, and we'll catch you. Tijesh, you're still here. Awesome to have you here. You've been a bit quiet, but that's fine. I'm sure you've been busy. But thank you so much for still being here in the live stream. Awesome to have that running. I really appreciate that. Yes, let's continue the chat on Discord. I've got some calls and meetings to go to, but I will be back later on, and we'll chat more on Discord, and we'll do some more live streams. Catch you all very soon. Have an awesome day. Don't forget to let me know your challenges and successes, and we'll chat more about that soon. Thank you all again. Catch you all soon.